All right, we're live. It's your main man, Frank Castle, your sorcerer supreme. Your Chuck Norris of hyperspace, as Steve would say.
He doesn't ask the machine elves for information. He just stares them down until they give it to him. That's just what happens.
Your master of ceremonies for tonight's group chat. Frankie Fearless is here, and I got some great guests with me today. The panel is awesome. Okay, so a little something about each person here. We have Karen Holton, ET and Angelic experiencer, exopolitical ambassador, holistic coach, and transdimensional channel. She has professional experience, including shamanic guidance, awakening, and ascension in counseling, as well as public disclosures. Let's see. Go check out everybody's links. She's the host of the Quantum Guide Show. All the links are already in the description for everyone. Chris Mathieu is a host and producer of Forbidden Knowledge News, founder of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, producer and director of the Forbidden documentary series. I don't know if Jen's going to be here today. BGcast, Steve, is the podcast that covers the Great Awakening and everything it entails, from deep to the esoteric to breakthrough in quantum physics involving consciousness to conspiracies. We cover it all. Okay, BGcast, everything is in the links down there. Steve, thanks for being here today. It's always great to see each and every one of you.
Thanks, man.
And you mentioned Jen. She unfortunately won't be able to make it, but she loves you all.
Oh, we love her too so much. And I'm sure her energy is going to fill the room right about. There we go. Consciousness as a technology, repairing our DNA. And I thought about this for a second. I have my own definition of consciousness, and this is my own. So it's source stream energy. It's found within and outside of oneself. It's a stream of source. It animates, it holds up, and holds everything together. When we become aware of this, we call this consciousness. Consciousness is also defined at Google. Consciousness, the state of being awake and aware in one's surroundings. The fact of awareness by the mind of itself in the world. So that's what I got to start it off. Who would like to send us into hyperspace?
Karen,
Hey,
you want to do
I'm
the
not
honors?
sure. Can any of you guys hear that kind of strange whirring noise there?
I hear music.
I don't know. It's there's something I keep hearing. It's a little distracting, but not sure.
I thought somebody was playing music out of their stream.
Not that
Interesting. Well, I guess we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it.
Oh, it went away. Look at that. Or I thought it did. It's like it went away. No worries. We got it. Karen, you want to do the honors?
Okay. What am I doing again? I'm sorry, I'm getting old.
Consciousness as a
What is
technology.
consciousness? Okay. I believe that consciousness is also universal consciousness. So I think we have consciousness, and it's like a tesseract. We're part of a larger system of consciousness. The planet, I think, is conscious. Perhaps the solar system, the galaxy, perhaps the whole universe. But I also believe universal consciousness, which is a frequency that vibes, in my belief, on the love harmonic, is also what a lot of people think of as God or Holy Spirit or Chi or Prana. It's the active force. Now, the thing that amazes me about it is that it's absolutely conscious of me, and I'm absolutely conscious of it. And that blows me away when you consider how many beings are on this planet, this galaxy, the universe, how many stars there are out there. It humbles me to know that it is absolutely conscious of me, and that it's an interactive relationship.
That was fantastic.
Right on. Well, what I would add to that is that I have gained an understanding that everything is consciousness. And the more we understand about metaphysical concepts, about the nature of reality, the more we can relate it to our understanding of technology, and it all meshes into one. So consciousness being a technology would make sense, especially if you are an extremely advanced being that understands consciousness in that level, knows how to manipulate it, knows how to utilize it on a greater scale rather than just for individual purposes and individual means. So I think that consciousness on many levels can be a technology. It is a technology. It always was. And we will most likely one day come to an understanding of the technological nature of our reality, but at the same time have a different understanding that it is a natural state at the same time.
Amazing,
Powerful.
amazing. I love what everybody said here, and I agree with every single one of you. And I'll add my own little spin on this. To me, consciousness is the prima materia of this entire existence. And we wouldn't have quantum physics actually coming out with the theory of panpsychism that is suggesting that consciousness is the prima materia of this existence. If there wasn't something to this, it resonates within us all. We all feel this, all of us on our spiritual evolution, that consciousness would be this prime fundamental and this driver for this temporary human physical experience. And with that being said, consciousness as a technology, if consciousness is the prima materia and everything stems from it, this would be a driving factor for altering and transmuting our world around us. I mean, you think the consciousness that works through our mental faculties that interact with our perceived physical experience, acting as the hammer and the chisel to carve out our entire existence. It is a tool, it is a tech, it is something beyond, it is the all. So to me, how I would describe consciousness, it is the all. It is the driving life force. It is the essence, the divine spark within us all that connects each and every one of us to every living thing, whether extraterrestrial or completely terrestrial in this existence. And that's my sum up on it.
It's amazing. I describe myself being surrounded by it, being within it and outside of myself, thinking I'm much higher. Oh, there it is again. Never outside of it. I had this thought one day where I went up chain of command, and then I was like, wow, this is crazy. So even when I bop out of the tank and I'm in Matrix X, yep. What about over here? Yep. The blade of grass. Yep. So it's in everything. They're like, everything. So then when you ask the enemy, what was your plan on defeating Source? They go, oh, we can't do that. There's no defeating Source. They're laughing. They're like, it's just kind of working on you who house Source, who doesn't know that. And the minute you know, we kind of release you off to the side because it's not worth it. Because as you wake up, you can do more. Your consciousness does more. It becomes bigger and stronger. You become a problem to everyone on the playing field. So we kind of usher you off because you can't get involved at a certain point. So they ignore you. They're like, well, just let him hope that he doesn't look again. Because when you focus that energy on the other species, it's source energy, right? It's a stream of energy that when focused can do anything. And we are that which is, and we're the amplifier, the antenna, the Pinocchio syndrome, the wooden puppet that then becomes a boy through intent and manifestation, right?
Absolutely.
Right? This is crazy. Yeah, they said there's some kind of music or something playing. I know.
Where's the? I made sure I went through my whole laptop and like closed out every single window, but this one did. Yeah.
I shut down everything. I have nothing open on my computer.
That's so strange. We got some interesting stuff happening here, man. And we have some kind of weird, interesting music going on.
What kind of music is it? Because in another room, I have music that's soothing to cats, but I have it on really low, and my microphone normally doesn't pick it up because I've got the noise cancellation on.
Right.
It went away now. So
Is it cutting now?
Yeah, it's gone now. It is, and what we'll do is
celestial.
I don't know. That's what I'm starting to think, man. Like, like I literally, as even in the beginning, it was so crazy. Like when I heard it, I'm like, I look and I started closing all my tabs, and then I went down and I closed out every other window but this one, and it was still going on.
I got everything shut down too. This is the only tab I have open.
Yeah, I made sure this was it. Yeah, there's nothing here.
I think it was the Elohim playing Frank his birthday song. I think that's what was going on right there. I think the Elohim.
I'm gonna go in there with cake and be like, you know what, guys? The best part about my born day is that I get to share cake with everyone that's here, and that's when I take the fire hose out, and it's just loaded with cake, right to everyone's face. Party. Once again, source stream energy. So consciousness can be used. And tell me in the chat if they're saying they don't hear it anymore. Sweet. So consciousness could be used as a weapon. So a technology. So it could be used as a weapon. I could focus it. I could create a beam of light in my hand that looks like a lightsaber. I could use it in the spirit realm to ward off things that have that you can use that on. So I've noticed you can't use it on everything, but that's why you have cake, right? And the joke about cake is it's energy of the all, right? So when you have a cake, it's loaded with everything that you would need to make the cake, right? So you want that, you come and get. Now you can have it here. Come get it. As I sing happy birthday, instead of, because if you pull a sword in consciousness every single day, you're going to have a war with someone something every single day, because there are those that are waiting for you to be that way. On the higher levels, the lower levels, it doesn't matter. But cake, on the other hand, suggests something different. It suggests, I'm not trying to be violent. I'm trying to have a fun, good time. But if you get hit with this cake and you're not of that right, doing the right thing, you're done. Just like Looney Tunes. And it's funny, from the cartoons we grew up with, I've learned how to hone this practice, which is honing my consciousness to work against things that work against me. So I see that as a technology. It's animating me right here. I'm the only one that sits around and looks at my hand and goes, wow, I know what I'm doing here now. But does anyone else know what they're doing? They always say no. They don't even know what's going on. That's why I look forward to these moments, to be in the panel with people, to show people, it is kind of few and far between, but it's more and more now.
I completely
agree.
My thoughts, if you don't mind me saying. No, actually, what really showed me that consciousness is a technology of some kind, are actually the ancient Kriya practices. I mean, we look at how ancient Kriya yoga is, and it involves putting your body at certain angles. It involves doing certain kinds of breath, and it involves moving your body in this particular way. And what it ends up doing is it ends up increasing your consciousness through these movements, through this breath. I mean, a very great example of this is, let's talk about our nadis real quick. So we have our Ida and Pingala nadis. So your Ida is your moon channel, your creative channel, your feminine energy channel. And when you're doing your feminine energy channel, you breathing through your left nostril. So if you're ever, caught up, in your sympathetic nervous system, if you're ever, caught up, or for all of you ladies out there, if you feel like, your masculine energy is on overdrive, you start breathing through your left nostril. And what this does is it starts to kick that portion and that energy, up into you. And the same thing with your right nostril for the masculine energy. And there's these certain, I call it almost a technology itself, this kind of stuff, because it is. You hold your body in certain angles to get certain results. If you're holding your arms straight out like this, you're working with the heart meridians. If you're holding your arms at a 60-degree angle, you're working with your throat, your third eye, and your crown meridians. So this is really what began to show me, because we have to think, dude, the human body is consciousness. And I think one of the biggest things when it comes to consciousness is a lot of people get stuck from the neck up, right? They think that consciousness is just here. You know what I mean? It's like, but it's everything. It's your fascia. I mean, when you stub your toe and you feel that pain, that's awareness of the pain, is it not, at the toe? So this is what I was talking about. Your body is a magnificent example of how consciousness is a technology and how it operates through this other kind of technology, which is our body. So it's like an interface of technologies, and there's these certain sequences that you can do, these certain like little like simulation hacks, like, you know, you breathe this way for 5 minutes, you get this state of consciousness, or if you want to breathe that way for 5 minutes, you get this state of consciousness. So to me, that was like the real pivotal factor of understanding on how like, you know, not only is our consciousness a technology, if our human body is a manifestation of our consciousness, there's that synergy between these two technologies that's going on. So that's what showed me this. And what's even crazier about this stuff, and we can touch on this later in the show, is it's going to repair your DNA too. DNA repair does not have to be complicated. And it's as simple as following ancient Vedic tradition and keeping a positive mindset every day of your life. So we can touch on that later. But that's what showed me truly that consciousness is a form of tech. And this is what our ancient ancestors used to use. They used to harness it in this fashion. It's back.
That's loud. Wait. I don't know. I muted everyone and then unmuted. Was it still there?
Yeah, here, I'll mute real quick. Let's try. It went away.
Somebody, the angels are singing at us through the digital technology. That's what it is.
It does, man. It sounds like it almost does. Like, have you ever had, I don't know if you've had this, Frank. I don't know if you've had this either, Karen, but have you ever been walking through your life and you just would hear music in your mind, and this music would be almost like, it's almost like a celestial kind of music, you know what I mean? And it'll just happen out of nowhere. And so it could be this. We could be channeling something here, guys, and we don't even realize it. I mean, this is interesting.
So, and then it gets louder again.
I can't hear it. I haven't heard it yet, so I don't even know what you guys are talking about. I haven't heard it, so
So
it'll
all
be
right.
interesting to see if it gets recorded.
So I'm sorry if it's getting blustering people out there, but I have no clue where it's coming. It's dead silent here, and there's nothing open. Everything's closed.
Yeah, me too.
Right. So we're gonna vibe up. So Karen, what do you think about all this?
Well, I think that consciousness absolutely is a technology, because I believe that us and everything is emergent from consciousness, not the other way around. So I don't think because I am, therefore I create consciousness. I think it's the other way around. And I'm a big fan of simulation theory, and also how I perceive something has a direct effect on what actually is, as been shown with the double slit experiment. So I actually think everything is emergent from consciousness, not the other way around. So it has to be a technology for it to be that way.
So this is amazing. Waking up to having this information. Once you become aware of it, it drives you deeper into it, thus focuses it. So now I want to say something interesting. I have a broken nose from when I was a young man. They reset it, My left nostril is so much smaller than my right side, right? Like just ridiculous. And as you're talking, I'm like, the enemy under ayahuasca attacks the human vessel that houses source. They'll make you like they won't do it, but they'll get you in a scenario with like a slip and fall, or let's say maybe you get beat up, punched in the face. Wrong. You're at the wrong place at the wrong time, and you went with it, and they got you there, and you slip and you hit the bone on the back of your neck. So now your kundalini isn't going to rise properly unless you have assistance. You'll just never. I was cut off from all that. I didn't even think any of that was real. And the first time ayahuasca worked, when I was back home and I did it from my personal self, it didn't work like 5 times in a row. I'm like, what is going on? Why isn't this working? And on the 6th time it worked, and I drank like a giant cup of it, and they showed me how the enemy attacked me. Like the first thing I went, what's happening? Like just blew my mind. And they were like, well, they attacked you here, 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 and here. And now as we're talking, I'm like, yeah, my face was my nose was crushed, and I can't breathe. But breathe. This is why we tell you, we say meditate and breathe. Just breathe, count your breathing, like just get used to it, because that's how you work the machine. You hone your consciousness and focus it. You got to start with the breath, because it also represents the whole breathing in and breathing out, the universal structure as source breathes out and breathes back in with the information. You're like pulling it in, bringing it down, pulling it, like you're reaching out with that breath, pulling it all back in.
I completely agree, man. And that's why they call the breath the bridge. They call the breath the bridge between consciousness and the body. And ultimately, there's a lot of people who feel that source consciousness resides in the breath. And that's something that that resonates with me on a very deep level. As far as what you were saying about being attacked, man, dude, I've got to tell you a really interesting story real quick. It's not too long. I was going to reach out and tell you about this, but I had been getting almost in some ways attacked for like the past couple of weeks. Like it felt like it was. And like, I was clearing my space, and just constantly clearing my space, clearing myself. And it just seemed like I've had a lot of realizations lately when it comes to certain things. So I think that's why, because when you bump up a layer in frequency, it's like throwing a pebble into that giant lake of the human collective consciousness. You throw a pebble in there, it's going to cause little ripples, it's going to cause waves, and other things are going to notice those waves too. You know what I mean? And that's what I think is going on. But Frank, I got to tell you, so last Friday, I have this dream, and the Elohim were there, and they sat me down, and they looked at me, and they said, "This is going to hurt less here than if we do it there." And I looked at them, and I said, "What do you mean?" And they go, "You trust us, don't you?" Because I've been working with them for a while now. And I looked at them, and I said, "Yeah, I trust you." And as soon as I said that, Frank, this giant energy tentacle shoved itself down my throat, went throughout my whole body, right? I could feel it wiggling around in my body as I'm sitting there going, because I got this giant energy tentacle in my throat. And then this happened for what seemed to be a minute, dude. And then it came out and it ripped these implants out of me. And I can't describe the way these implants looked, dude. They was almost like cringeworthy. Like they looked like these pine needle feather dark fractal things that had like these hooks in them. And like they were hooking into me, like while they were inside of me. And I remember I sat there, man, and like I was like looking at them, and I looked up at them, and I was like, "Thank you." And they said, "See, we told you it was going to hurt less here than if we did it there." And then after they said that, I woke up, and I kid you not, man, my throat was sore from the whole experience. When I woke up here in the physical, my throat was sore, and I felt like I had gotten supercharged, man. Like I got to, like, it was like something, the removal of those or whatever was in me had literally supercharged my energy because it wasn't being held back anymore. And so this is the thing that, like, you're saying about being attacked, man. Like, these attacks are consciousness based too. And what's going to happen is, as you make progress in your evolution, your spiritual evolution, what's going to happen is there's going to be things that take notice. Like I said, you're throwing, and depending on how the layer or the frequency that you burst into, dude, it could be the equivalent of throwing a big rock into that pond of the collective consciousness and causing some major waves. And this is the power that consciousness has, and this is the power that each and every one of us has also. So that I feel you, man. You'll see where they attack you, dude. And our guides help us. They'll come let you know, whether it be through that state of meditation, it be through that dream state in the astral, or it be through the entheogenic medicines. Like, they'll come to you and they'll help you and they'll let you know. And I thought it was because they like to treat me like I'm their redheaded stepchild. So, like, it was funny how they just sat me down and they just put they're like, it's going to hurt less here. I'm like, what? They're like, just watch. Right down the throat. And, but yeah, no. So I feel you on the being attacked, but back to what I was saying, man. Yeah. The breath is the bridge, dude. It's the ultimate thing. And I do think that's ultimately where our main essence of source consciousness could lie. You know what I mean? Because you do the breath, you do the different breathing and the breath work, and it changes your state of consciousness. So, like, to me, definitely, man, definitely with the breath.
Karen, have you experienced any of, like, removal of implants?
Yeah, I did what I call an alien implant removal process through a website where I paid for the service. So it included essential oils and also some time with a remote session with a psychic healer. And I actually definitely did find it was like peeling a layer off that was like a dampening field that was on me. But then a few years later, back in 2020, this was about probably around 2016. Then around 2020, I had a transdimensional experience with, an entity I affectionately call Bob the Gray. And he basically, what he did is I went into a meditative state. He boosted my signal so I could go back to the big ship, which is the subject of my book, my experiences there. And I went back to the big ship, but this time I was there astrally or ethereally. I get the two mixed up, but in sort of a different form. And I went into a meeting with a bunch of other beings, and it was quite interesting because it was like a teaching environment, and the instructor was teaching us about alien implants and told us all to go back to our worlds and to come up with remedies for our people, our beings. I came back, I did a bunch of meditations. I came up with I worked with a woman who was a specialist in essential oils, came up with some combinations and also some crystal combinations. I used a number of devices to pinpoint exactly what would work the best, including pendulum work, kinesiology, muscle testing, talking or communicating with Bob the Gray, a whole bunch of things. And I ended up putting together what I called alien implant removal kits, and which consisted of basically guided meditation with some essential oils and some crystals arranged within orgone generators. Anyway, I didn't make too many, but I made a few, and people have ordered them from me and been very happy with the results. So I think there's different kinds of implants, guys. I think there's maybe physical, metallic, or crystalline, or ceramic. Some of them are etheric, where we are not even conscious of them unless we do the spiritual work to find them, and usually guides help us to find them. There's all different kinds of implants, and I think they have a variety of purposes, but none of them are really in our best interest. Although there's some people who have implants and they want to keep them because it helps them to communicate with ETs or whatever. And then I think that there's actually a fair amount of implanting going on with the transhuman agenda here on Earth today, which is very much orchestrated by human beings who don't have our best interests at heart. So I just sort of leave it at that. I didn't really mean to go on too long, but I totally believe that implants affect each and every one of us. If it's not alterations to our DNA, it might be etheric attachments, it could be physical, crystalline, like there. I think it's a very complicated, it's something that nobody really hardly ever talks about.
Well, a lot of these things, right, directly coincide with you being so powerful that they're measuring, eating, trying to control, consume, or take a piece of your DNA. So they have that in them and what they create because it's that powerful, but we can't see it because we're like young. We're in the flesh suit. We're like a flower blossoming, and there's characters around us already. We're already surrounded by these characters, but we're so potent. Even what you would consider dirty source energy is still ridiculously potent. If I took a bucket of that and got you with it, you'd be like, what did you do to me? I'd be like, oh, you don't like slinging mud now, huh? Right? It becomes a crazy thing. So once again, consciousness, it's our consciousness because it's running the show. And it's connecting to us to all these other layers, versions of us. So I see the Russian nesting doll of myself. And we came in from up here and then fell all the way to down here. But you just came in density wise. And then you go laterally, and you branch out. And then the big version comes in. See, the human flesh suit is meant to house source. So then they can feed if they could keep you at 2-strand DNA only activated. But see, the problem is once you become aware of what's going on, even just the slightest bit, it opens the door to a door that could never ever be closed again. So the process on their end becomes limited because you're becoming that more powerful. It's time to go. So you're not going. It's like this weird greeting and meeting of the two, which is why we talk about sometimes superpowers on the show. But it's really just you already have this innate inside of you as you activate DNA. Your flesh is built to deal with this. It's just been slightly held back for a long time, but never stopped. And then if you believe that it stopped and it halted, it's even slower for you, but it never stops. Just like the Archon that's like, I'm not connected to source. And I go, what's that on your head? And it's this light kind of connector. I go, just because you put a choker on your tether doesn't mean you're not connected. Are you within the game somewhere? And they're like, obviously. I go, then source. Right? Like, why did I just show up here? I have no want nor desire to, as Frank, to connect with you, but obviously source wants me to see something. So I send you guys love, and they're like, oh, like little babies, right? They leave, but what they do when they go in the back is how can we siphon off more of consciousness, the source energy from them, vampire style. Because it is the most potent thing in the universal structure. And we're about to wear the outfit and have the highest version of us walk around. So you're about to see something that you haven't seen since Atlantis and before. Lemuria and all that, like way before. I'm talking about some crazy stuff. You know, in the comic books, they always refer to this stuff in weird ways. And they have this guy called in the Green Lantern comic, the White Lantern, and he wears the one ring, like it's like the one ring that rules them all, but he's not ruling anything. He's just the guy. So it's White Lantern, right? But he has the power of everything. Everything. And the character that became him was the biggest creative artist of all the characters over the last like 60 years. So they made this one guy, the White Lantern, right? And they're like, you could only have one because it would be, it's having him as like a real Jesus. Like he's just walking around doing whatever he wants. You can't beat him. You have to hope that he defeats himself. So they always send him off to do things because they don't know what to do with this guy. When he shows up, he's just like, okay, enough of that. And it just stops. The evil just goes away. But that guy's a direct reflection of you. That energy and that character is the artist's depiction of us putting on the one ring that rules ourselves. You close the circuit on you, thus making you the higher power and ability. But that just means more consciousness energy. It permeates in the room. You breathe it. You exhale it. We call it air, but under ayahuasca and mushrooms, we see that this pink energy is the only thing actually in the room. Well, so that's us, right? Weird moments to figure this out. So we'll take it into the second half of repairing our DNA. So as you activate DNA and you begin to heal your traumas in yourself, the DNA just activates evolution, and it brings you right into you having the ability to now overwrite the programming of the flesh suit, showing you the true power of who and what you are. Thoughts?
So I really like everything you said, man. I want to touch on something that you said about the, going back to the rejoining with our higher fractal, going back to the times of Atlantis and how things were back then. So one of the things, like you were saying, superpowers, we talk about it on the show. So one of the things, I've been diving into and I'm on a path on right now is for the cities. And for those of you who don't know what the cities are, the cities are not supernatural abilities at all. They're not supernatural abilities, and that's what they get labeled as, is they get labeled as these yogic supernatural abilities that yogis achieve after doing, whether it be the tapas, whether it be achieving samyama, whether it be through mantra meditation or through entheogens. Like, you can get these cities through a lot of these different routes, but what they are is they're innate, natural human abilities, okay, that we have just lost connection with and we've lost touch with, so, and this is the perspective we need to have. And what's really interesting about them too is, because you know how this world works, Frank, there's always the symbolism that goes with the literal. And so let's take the city enema, for example. So what enema is you can shrink yourself down to the smallest size possible, the subatomic level, the Planck length, you name it, you can shrink yourself down to this size. But in order for you to achieve the physical portion of this, you must actually understand the internal portion too. And you must understand great humility and exercise great humility towards every living thing and every aspect of this existence. So what I think you're saying is right, because what I kind of call what's happening right now is a spiritual revival, right? We're being greeted with this, what we think as new information and realizations, but actually what's happening is through the work we've been doing here in our spiritual collective and the work that we've been doing subjectively as well on ourselves, we've kind of laid a higher energetic foundation here in this reality for this to actually start occurring, for all of this true information to start emerging. So, and one of the things I've come to realize when it comes to understanding this stuff is I've coined a term for it. I call it realization and integration of the acquired remembrances and knowledge that that has been surfacing within us through the spiritual work we're doing. Because you can consciously understand something, you can hold it with you. You can walk through life holding this conscious understanding, but until it becomes an inner standing and you understand it in that own subjective special way that's meant for you, what happens is that integrates itself into your being. Now that integrates itself into your source stream, as you put it, Frank. So I think that's exactly what's happening right now. When we're seeing this upsurge and this uptick in the frequencies of consciousness on this planet, is because we're laying this foundation now, this frequency foundation, I call it, for this greater information and these greater realizations to occur within all of us. And, one of the biggest things, I'll hop over to the healing DNA portion of this. And, I can't stress the old Vedic sciences enough when it comes to this topic. I can't stress them because it's literally found right there in the Vedas. Like, you can open up and there's 4 principles when it comes to repairing your DNA and living a healthy life. It's number 1, always keep a positive mindset. Number 1. Okay. Because if you are in a positive mindset, your body is able to heal itself from all of the damage that's been done to it at a greater rate. Because if you're walking around in a mesmerized state of terror, like the rest of the collective, you have your cortisol pumping, all of your stress hormones pumping. And what this does is it doesn't allow the body to heal at this accelerated rate. You know what I mean? And then number 2, you have meditation. And, meditation, of course, going within, one of the biggest things that helps heal our DNA, because when we meditate and we go within, we connect to the source stream and source consciousness. And this allows us to build what I like to call a bridge there. We have that strengthening of the bridge each day between us and the source stream. And when we strengthen that bridge each day between us and the source stream, what happens is you allow the source stream to permeate your physical body a lot more. And the source stream is going to heal you. It's going to upgrade your DNA. It's going to give you the upgrades we all talk about, as when it comes to our spiritual evolution, as far as deeper realizations and remembrances. The third one is sunlight. Sunlight is very good for your DNA, despite what all the mainstream science wants to tell you. Sunlight actually has the ability to enhance and upgrade our DNA as well. So yeah, don't listen to what Big Pharma and the scientific institutions are telling you. The sun is amazing for you as far as healing your DNA. And the third one, last but not least, eating clean and keeping a healthy body. And these are the 4 Vedic principles, and they have stood the test of time when it comes to this. And this to me is like, because I think when it comes to our health in this world, and I'll leave it at this because I don't want to go too long. When it comes to our health in this world, both physically, or all 3, physically, mentally, and spiritually, we've been conditioned to think it's hyper complex. That's the conditioning that's been faced on us, and placed on us ever since we've been born. But in all reality, as Frank's saying here, you have total control. You're a source being. You have the total control over your repair of your DNA, over the repair of your body, and even over the repair of your mind and your spiritual centers. So that's the one thing I want to say is, we have to undo that conditioning into thinking doing something like this is hyper complex, because it's not, and as the more we remove that conditioning from ourselves and understand that we can take control of our genetic expression based on the choices and the actions and what we intake as far as frequency wise. So I'll leave it at that, man. But yes, it's just as simple as that. And it's not a very hard thing to do.
Super powerful information right there. Karen, what are your thoughts?
Well, I see patterns, and I see patterns that are similar. So for me, I think repairing our DNA can be found in many different philosophical belief systems. You could think of it as a 5-pointed star. So I also believe that sunshine is a technology. Sun is a technology. We need to take in the photons to feed our light body, which is a viable part of being physical. I also believe in water, having access to clean water, spring water, if we can get it. I think that it's also quite magical. So I think the sunshine is transformative. I think water's transformative. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Veda Austin. She has done all these experiments where she shows a petri dish of water, an image, and then she freezes it, and the water copies the image. So there's an incredible intelligence found in water. So we're also made up of the photons from the sun. We're made up from the water. Then there's the earth itself. And I think that also includes grounding to the earth. And also, I think that includes what we eat needs to come from the earth, be it animal or mineral or vegetable, not a package from from the supermarket. I think we need real food that comes from the earth, and all these things combine to reflect the different elements I'm talking about. And then there's the air. So we've already talked about breathing. You covered that really well, Stephen. And I think the oxygen getting into our body, as well as the amazing states of relaxation, rest and digest, and relaxation that can come from that, and spiritual contact. So that's the main four. But I think the fifth one, which can be found in pagan philosophies, Chinese traditional medicine, would be spirit. And connecting with spirit, I think, makes all things possible. That loops us right around talking again about consciousness. And so I think that that all of those things taken in, and with respect and love, and can change us. And I think it can very much change and repair our DNA.
Well said. Well said. And as you're speaking, I see the junk DNA that the scientists label junk activating and becoming that which is actually the living library. So everything, including the universal structure, everything that makes up everything, makes up you and I. Realization of this brings more awareness. More awareness brings in more of the source energy. The source energy allows activation. When you overwrite like a bad thought, like, oh, I'm no good, and you go, no, I am good. I'm not allowing that thought. You challenge each one. You're actually growing out an area to fit more light into you, because the negative gets pushed out. It holds such a heavy weight over us at times. And as you push that out, and like when you heal your trauma, at least I feel like this. I feel like Swiss cheese after ayahuasca, because things were removed, but I realized it was just chunks of density where I was storing and stuffing evil emotions and thoughts, and I stuffed it all down through lifetimes, and it becomes part of your DNA structure. When it was removed, it opened, and then it allowed activation of evolution. And they were like, yo, your wife and many others are the example. You're going to walk this place. You're not going anywhere. You're going to walk into the 5D network. You're not going to have to like go through the death cycle. And I was like, what are you guys talking about? They're like, you're meant to evolve through that, not die through it 100,000 times. You're meant to take your physical body, and so as you're healing and you're activating more source energy, you're being tested under pressure like a diamond of all the emotional bandwidth, and then each solution to the equation, kind of, you start getting more of yourself back. You add more and more and more, and you get used to things, and it always brings you to your galactic brothers for some reason, because when you see something that you've never seen before, it freaks you out. So you could have telepathy and superpowers and all this, and oh, here's the gray alien. You can't do that. Can't do that. You got to prepare. It's all part of the same thing. And then you kind of like catch up with these other characters that have been alive the whole time that you've been not aware of, but then suddenly become aware of, and you rot. Your DNA activates. I always say, why is it so fast? And they're like, the ones that are the example are out on the front lines, right? You're doing it. I'm like, yeah, kind of. They're like, yeah, everything's responding to you. I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. They're like, great. So those people that are like that are going to pop off to show the other people that you can do this, and then they're going to do it. So it's not like you're not going to do it. It's like those that are like, oh, well, how are you doing that? And it's like, we explained it to you. A lot of people, you know, they want you to scientifically prove it to them. And I'm like, it's on an individual thing. But you follow 4 basic structures, it'll get you from A to B to C to D. That works fantastically. So if you want your science, there it is. But you got to get your spirit in here, more awareness. You got to relax into that state and let it overcome you. Let the DNA, excuse me, rise. But it's happening so fast. It's happening really fast. And they're like, well, you've been held back. So as the spring releases, it da-da, there you are. And you're like, wait a second. And it's like, right, if you would have naturally been able to evolve, this would have already happened a long time ago. That was the original deal. That's what they told you when they took a light body being and put him convinced them to come into the flesh. You can do the same thing you did as the light body, but over there or over here in this space, but in the flesh, like all these other beings. And we were like, oh, because we didn't know what deception was, because we're glorious, right? That's the basic answer. We're glorious. So we came in here ignorant to that kind of evil. And that's the whole garden and all this other nonsense. And it's crazy. And then you come in here and you're like, what's going on? The suit's not activated to the level necessary for you to achieve any of those goals. So you're starting at level 1. And what do? Recycle you back into level 1. And if they catch you breaking free of the matrix, you go into their belly and then come back again at 1. This is what they were doing. My wife said, it's like, I'm a point of light. And each time I pass, I go up and they're like, oh, you're going back down. And she's like, no, it's too fast. It's too much. Bang, 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 bang. She's like, I'm not getting a break. Because you're so powerful and you're so potent, they're trying to throw you off your game. So you use these tools, these guides on you, and you test the water and find what works best for you in your system and activate your system, right? And this will repair your DNA. Sunlight and selfless shout out. Sons of the Suns music, Off to Be the Wizard now out. Awesome. The sunlight will activate you. Talk to the sun. Ground yourself. Close your eyes. Look right up at the sun and ask the sun a question. And don't be silly. Be specific. Be like, look, I'm a son just like you. I'm the all. Like Frank said. Frank said, Steve said, Karen said, I'm the all. Like, I want you to respond to me with some love. I tell the sun every day, I'm bald, right? I go outside and I go, feed me, don't hurt me, son. Love me, just love me every day. And I don't put anything on. I take my shirt off and I'm bald head in the bright sun all day. Nothing. I get a nice tan and that's it. No burn anywhere. Because it greeted me and said, you're ready for your upgrades. I'm not just giving off. The sun is conscious. I'm not just giving off sunlight for you guys and everything. There's information coded in this, values that you need in your system to upgrade. It's not here to hurt you. It's here to upgrade you. And the fact that you're aware of that makes the process better and easier, faster. And it's more beautiful.
I would completely agree, man. You know, and one of the biggest things I think that's going to lead us to accelerate our evolution, you know, because you were talking about how we're always sent back to level 1, you know, and it is, you know, we don't have to continuously. I think that's one of the things I've kind of done away with a little bit in my own evolution is they say that, you know, the reincarnation cycle is necessary. Like, you know, to learn all of these lessons, you need to come back and learn it, you know, things like that. I think one of the biggest things that's going to help accelerate us in our evolution here, and you were talking about how we should, and I even saw it in the comments, I've heard only one person was able to actually step into their higher self. I agree. We should not need to die. And what I think it's going to take for us to get there is understanding prana. And that's going to be something that's really going to catalyze this, because you look at a lot of these people throughout history. Like, let's kind of dive back, if we're going into, you know, consensual history and the consensual narrative. There was a lot of Buddhas, you know, there was a lot of these individuals who came and they achieved what I would call this, almost like this change state. And that's the best way I can describe it. I mean, a good example of this is, let's look at the second Buddha, Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche. You know, he had achieved this state, you know, to where he had a very long lasting life. He could be physical if he chose to be, or he could be energetic if he chose to be. And I think that this is exactly where we're heading towards, as far as, you know, upgrading ourselves. And what you were saying earlier about being sent down, that the avatar that we're in has been stifled. It's not capable at level 1 of being able to do this stuff, but utilizing prana and actually teaching our body to absorb this prana at a higher rate. I think ultimately this is what's going to be what pushes us even further, because I mean, you have to kind of look at how we're almost being casted, how spells are being casted upon us in this world too, you know, because this is the thing, like mainstream science comes up and says, you're only meant to live this long. Right. And of course, you know, since we've been born into this world, we have been conditioned to look on the outside of ourselves for all of these answers. I mean, we're conditioned to look on the outside of ourselves for love, validation, you know, the answers to these bigger questions that we have about life, authority, all of these things. And this is ultimately, it's going to be a 2-stage thing for us. I feel it's going to be shaking this conditioning that we've dealt with since we've incarnated here into this existence, and understanding that this is all within us and we have the ability to change ourselves. And it's going to take diving deeper on this information. It's going to take diving deeper on these realizations and these remembrances we have to finally catalyze us, and even this avatar, into the way that it was meant to be. So, I mean, you look at a lot of these people who did I mean, let's take a look at Mahatma Babaji, right? Fabled to have lived 400 to 500 years, very, very possible. And he just chose not to be in this existence anymore. He chose to be energetic. This is what I think originally these avatars were meant to be equipped for. You know, is this kind of process, this kind of knowledge, this kind of remembrance. And that's why I think as we go further in this and we continue to dive deeper on this stuff, we continue to uncover more with our healing, and we get these deeper realizations, this is going to burst forth into us actually achieving a full state of being here. Now, it's always been said, there's always been a saying or going around that if one person were to achieve enlightenment or ascension in its totality, that it would actually cause a ripple effect through the collective consciousness. And it would, in and of itself, would be an upgrade to literally every human being here. And then what that's going to do is it's going to lay an even bigger foundation for more of this stuff to come through, to be channeled through the source stream into our avatars, into our own source streams, our own divine sparks, and it's going to cause it to manifest outward. So I think ultimately where it starts is under the understanding of our true nature, removing this conditioning from ourselves that's been placed on us since the day we have been born, and utilizing prana at a deeper level. So this is what I think, man. I think this is the way to truly upgrade ourselves in this fashion and to live this life here as it was truly meant to be intended to. Of course, like you said, we were glorious, like we didn't know deception. It was almost as if a sleight of hand occurred, in this whole process. And that's one thing that I've called it, is like the biggest sleight of hand. So I think that's going to be ultimately what pushes us, Frank. I think as we move further in our healing and we lay this energetic foundation for more of this information to come through, this is what's ultimately going to catalyze us into that full state of being a true human.
Well said. Karen, what are your thoughts?
Wow. Well, it's kind of hard to improve upon what both of you and Stephen has shared with the group. So I guess the only thing I will add to all of this is most people on earth that I have met do not understand what love means. And especially in the Western world, we're not taught to love ourselves. Once we learn to love ourselves, we can love other people. And that's not just a warm, fuzzy affection. That includes self-control and patience and mildness and mercy and a whole bunch of things, and we're so darn hard on ourselves. It's almost like those negative statements we're giving ourselves is programming ourselves to be less than what we actually are. So I guess I would just end by saying that I think it's important for people to find out what love means, and they learn how to love themselves, or we learn how to love ourselves, so that we can love others. And I think that frequency will have a healing effect on everything and everyone.
You're hearing it here for all the different directions, the mix of the different experiences, because consciousness is infinite. And as we pull it in, we as the human try to describe it. We try to create an understanding, a science around it, and all that good stuff. I would say submit to more energy, to the awareness. Let it know you're paying attention. When you see 11:11 on the clock, acknowledge it and say, I'm ready for more. Don't be foolish. Have fun, but don't be foolish. Don't be like, shit. Just universe, I am ready. Show me more. That's the activation code to the environment we're in, to be like, oh, he's ready. Send it in. It's like in the game, if you don't call out, you have a button, and if you press call out, you call to your higher self, and the higher self answers and responds. But do you do what he's saying? Do you guys link up like that? But when you're like, dude, I'm ready now. I'm ready. I want this. In my heart, I want this. Boom, it starts to occur. But in the boom, it starts to occur. Get ready to purge out all that darkness where you've been storing stuff, right? It becomes one of the craziest rides and experiences that you can imagine. But on the end of this lies the buried treasure. And I think that's where we're gonna hold up. Steve, tell everyone where they can find you, my brother.
Absolutely. And I want to kind of shadow what somebody said in the comments. That was beautifully said, Karen. That definitely was. And so where you guys can find me, you can find me on the Forbidden Knowledge Network with Karen. And that's www.forbiddenknowledge.news. Go and check out everybody there and give everybody a listen to. And you can find me on all major podcast platforms: Spotify, Spreaker, Rockfin, YouTube, and Rumble under BGcast. And you can find me on all social media under BGcast. And what I'm kind of working on right now is some good news. I have my first documentary. Got the first documentary idea planned out and plotted. So we're going to be calling it What is True Health? you know. And I think one of the things that we deal with when it comes to our health here is we're bombarded by so many narratives. You know, we have the mainstream narrative, we have the alternative narrative, and we got a few other narratives that come along. So in all reality, what is the way to true health, and what is the way to truly be healthy while we live here, in order to make the most out of this existence and manifest our most joyful, abundant timeline that brings us closer to our spiritual evolution? So I'll be working on that. It's going to probably be about an hour to an hour and a half long, and it's looking for a release in early 2026. So that's it for me.
That's amazing. Karen, final thoughts, and where can everyone find you?
You can find me on most social media platforms at Karen Holton TV. You can find me on the Forbidden Knowledge Network, and then it's under the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton. And of course, you know, you can find me on Telegram and Rumble and Odyssey and YouTube and pretty much everywhere. And if worst comes to worst, just Google at Karen Holton TV, and you'll just see tons and tons of content. And I just want to say to those out there, the viewers and the listeners, please share this podcast with everybody. And you never know who it might help. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to Fearless Frank, and also to BGcast and myself, so you can be kept in the loop on the latest information from all of us. And that's about it. I don't really have much to add. We've pretty well covered everything really well. I'm really happy with the podcast. And yeah, that's it. Just lots of love and light to everybody.
That's awesome. And shout outs to everyone giving me birthday shout outs today. I appreciate and love each and every one of you. Steve, Karen, I love I love each of you. Amazing people going through it, speaking about it, bringing knowledge to the table with others, so a broader, wider understanding can then be understood, and you guys can listen in and take whatever piece you need of it and connect it to you, and so on and so on and so on. And that's how we want it to work. Sources here, there's not leaving, right? So
Exactly.
start to get used to it. You could find me on YouTube at Frank Castle Fearless or Fearless Tribe, and Sons of the Sun Music, our new single, whoa, Off to Be the Wizard. It's really awesome. Check it out. And thank you everyone for being here. And I look forward to doing this again soon. Stay fearless, everyone. And remember, the universe rewards bravery. Good night, everyone.